The recoil broke something in my shoulder again. Same place as last time. I think the bone's soft there now, shattered and reknit so often it doesn't heal right. Still, I pulled the trigger. The shot went high, not even close to the orc, but clean over the commissar's head. I saw him flinch, cloak drawing tight across his back as he turned just enough for the bolt to slice past. It hit something behind him. Not a Xenos, not even cover. I heard the bolt crack open muscle and catch on cartilage. One of ours. Didn't see who, just the sound it made. Wet, final, like stepping in hot butcher meat. Burnt metal too from the pack cooking off. The air stank of it. That stayed longer than the scream. I kept my finger on the trigger after that. No shots came. Just a buzz in my ears, like the rifles weren't done talking. The stock had gone slick with blood. My own, I thought, but I couldn't tell where the wound was. Might have split a palm open on the iron sight, or maybe a glancing shot glanced me. Didn't hurt much, not yet. The pain always waits until after the paperwork shows up. Someone shouted my name or my number, I'm not sure. They get used interchangeably out here. All I know is I heard it through the haze of engines and orders, and the Vox crackling its usual nonsense prayers. The guardsmen on either side had dropped low again, pressing into the lip of trench like groundhogs dodging shells. Only I was standing. Rifle up, eye twitching, breath tasting of scorched cloth and chem sealant. He hadn't seen me. The commissar. He kept surveying the kill zone, barking angles, spitting curses into the dirt like words could stop the charge. Maybe he really thought the blind fire came from an enemy crawler somewhere in those ruined silo frames ahead. Maybe he didn't. Didn't matter. The moment passed. A mistake stored and wrapped in sanctioned deniability. If he'd seen me, if he'd said my name, then the next bolt would have gone through my skull with all the ceremony of a door hinge slamming shut. I lowered the rifle slowly. I didn't decide to. I just realized it wasn't at my shoulder anymore. There's no point trying to explain why I pulled the trigger. I didn't mean to, and that doesn't mean much anyway. The trigger was under my finger, and my finger belonged to the Imperium. They trained it to curl on command. It obeyed. That's enough to call it duty or heresy, depending on who's still upright to file the statement. A dead man lies behind the commissar now, one of ours. Doesn't even matter who. They'll write him into the casualty roll between blowback estimations and target acquisition metrics. They might not even pull his tags, just toss him into the next firing pit once we rotate position. That's if we're lucky. If things tighten, they'll prop him up for a decoy and leave a last pack on his belt to draw fire. That's the moment. Not the trigger or the scream, the moment when I felt nothing. Or worse, a kind of quiet, like the war around me had finally accepted I was part of it. No more edge, no more panic. Just that first breath after a death. Not relief, not horror, just the knowing. Something shifted inside me when the shot went wrong, and no one saw it, not even me, not truly. Not until later, when the system reminded me how much it hates unexplained noise. We've been here 3 weeks without a dusk. The sky never changes, just constant green fog pressing down like wet wool, thick with spore drift and exhaust. The sun's somewhere behind it, but there's no light. The sergeant says it used to be a farming moon. I don't see how. There's nothing here that isn't rusted or rotting. The trenches are poured from reclaimed Habmetal, bolted together in Vox pattern shapes, layered over bones and broken loader frames. I sleep beside a tank track that's half buried in yellow mud and pitted with old melter-gun scores. It still smells like promethium, even though the engine's long gone. Every day repeats. The Vox chimes wake us in perfect unison, 6 tones, one after the other, followed by a blurted prayer in Banarique Gothic. That means prep. You boil the rations in their tins, barely food, but hot and thick enough to push through, then repairs. If you're lucky, it's just woven flak or mag seals on the trench plates. If you're not, it's digging latrines in crater water with a broken entrenching tool. After that, formation drills. Not for fighting, just for remembering where you belong. Names called, positions checked, ranks recited. It's less for the chain of command and more for the illusion of it. No one here questions who's in charge. The commissar, then the sergeant, then the emperor, who's dead but louder than the rest. I stopped thinking of myself as anything but part of the line by the second week. You have to. They push us through task order grids stitched onto cogitator sleeves, tiny glowing sigils beside each name. Mine flashes red if I fall behind in prayers or spend too long at the latrines. Private First Class, Unit Designation, AFA 62, 7th Line, Vernox Regiment, the numbers painted on my sleeve and burned in the tin tag around my neck. They gave me that name when I stepped off the personnel hauler. I had another one before. A surname, some kind of job maybe. Civilian scrap, all of it. I think I had a brother, or a friend's brother, someone who borrowed tools and never gave them back. I don't remember his face, just that he left grease under every doorknob he touched. That might have been me. Can't be sure. It blurs after induction. They make it blur. There's a chaplain's repeater on the trench wall next to our gear slots. It buzzes liturgy every 6 hours. Praise be, obedience brings unity, unity brings victory, and so on. The others repeat it without thinking. At first I didn't, and the Vox picked that up. You learn not to forget again. Auto-security isn't kind. It doesn't assume error. It assumes deviation. The second time I skipped a verse, the panel jolted me through my boots. Not a stun. More like it told my nerves to stop listening. I pissed myself, then passed out. Didn't even make a sound. Next time I whispered the words with cracked lips. The machine accepted that. Only real break comes during resupply, and even that's routine. Crates hauled in by Auspex guided servitors. They dump ration bricks, last packs, and cog binder pages. We sort it ourselves, sergeant watching. If you take more than allotted, that's reported. If you take less, that's weakness. I learned to copy everyone else exactly. Breathe when they breathe. Chew when they chew. Nod at words I don't hear because the Vox is louder than any spoken sentence. There's a pit, maybe 200 meters behind the line, where they throw the dead. No ceremony. No tags read aloud. Just catalogued, then dumped. Someone from Munitorum walks the edge with a data slate, ticking names. Not ours, just numbers. We're issued 4-digit kill codes on our left van brace now, updated daily. One goes red if you're listed KIA. No one ever explains what to do with the body when that happens. They're not ours anyway. I patrol the same arc each rotation. 17 paces out, 19 back. My chrono's cracked, but I time it by the repetition. Slosh, drag, turn, slosh. The footings don't shift anymore. Even the mud's learned its place. I think we have. The first time I saw a man weld his fingers to a rifle, they called it devotion. The sergeant told us to watch as the tech adept poured sanctified grease into the loading port and wrapped the man's hands in prayer strips. Then came the flame. Focused, controlled. Not enough to destroy the nerves, just to seal the grip. He never screamed. He'd bitten down too hard on the scrap of flak cloth they gave him, lips torn open, eyes blank. When it was done, he bowed. Not to us, to the weapon. The chaplain placed a purity seal across his knuckle. "In the Emperor's name," he said, "you are now one piece, one purpose." I remember wondering if he'd been a volunteer. That question got smaller every day. There is no part of this war that isn't wrapped in ritual. When I affix my rebreather, I recite 6 lines from Book 7 of Manual Tactica. The breathing oath, the 4th respiration clause, and the distilled purity chant. Not because I believe it steadies my hands, though some say it does, but because if I omit it, the log strips in my sleeve will record a deviation. They don't always punish you for 1 deviation, but 2 or 3. That's when the medici arrive with ink thorns to mark your veins, and the chaplain sets a cogitator to track your thought rhythm during sleep. They don't call it mind theft. They call it recitational realignment. The guns have names, mine's etched with a latanic number drilled into the stock. Series 108, Heretic's Delay. No one knows what it means. The name came with the weapon, handed down from another regiment that died on Ulateth Prime. I've never cleaned it without finishing the 39-burst chant welded onto the underbarrel. If you miss a syllable, nothing happens. Not immediately, but I've seen the looks. A tech priest once stopped mid-diagnostic because someone mumbled a line. He stared until the man said it again, louder. Then he went back to soldering. No one mentioned it after. Our medkits are bound with wax seals. If you open one, you have to burn a strip of parchment, say the augmentation verse, and log the name of the recipient. There's no room for hasty triage. Death is faster than inefficiency anyway. The last time I reached for a stim pack without clearance, the junior chirurgeon slapped my hand away with a sanctified spoon. Told me that haste without authorization was close kin to mutation. I watched the man with a gut wound lie still afterward. Could have been saved. Might have, might not. The record showed 0 deviation. Praise be, the commissariat holds sermons where the bodies used to be stacked. They light incense made from ration refuse and recite from the doctrine Imperialis while we stand in formation. Every head forward, every vow sworn into the dirt. They tell us the emperor sees through the heels of boots, judges through the folding of sleeves, acknowledges each corrected aim as a hymn of intent. Someone asked once if he really hears us. That man was shot after final prayer. No remarks given. The rifles fired in perfect sequence, one after the other, like a practiced song. I've forgotten what my handwriting looks like. Every field report is dictated to a data servitor who passes it into Binaric and cross-references for discrepancies. No need to sign them. The flesh is incidental. What matters is the alignment. The words match or they don't, and if they don't, there is correction. Our scribe lost an eye to one such correction. The red lens that replaced it glows. When he reads back liturgies, sometimes I think he misses blinking. There's no space for belief here, only obedience. Faith isn't something you feel. It's something you do precisely, in the right order, at the right time. Every action accompanies record. Every breath echoes with precedent. We don't pray for protection. We pray to be permitted continued function. Even the dead are sorted by doctrinal relevance. There are no mistakes, only misclassifications. Misfires aren't failures. They're opportunities for doctrine review. Even a stray bolt has its entry in the Codex Penal. I don't think there's a word for home in High Gothic. Only origin. Only designation. I looked once during a rest period. The Vox speaker flickered mid-chant and gave us 9 seconds of static silence. Enough to hear your own thoughts, enough to realize you're still having them. It happens less now. Corporal Thane tried to drown himself rather than face the next rotation. No one saw him walk off, but it didn't take much to guess where he went. There's a runoff pit behind the mess sector, deep enough to break ankles when it's rained and thick with sump oil where the pump lines leak. What's in it doesn't move or reflect, just sits heavy, warm, and black, like breath you can't exhale. Boots found at the edge by morning muster. That's all. The commissar had us form double column while a tech team fished him out with hooked pikes. When they dragged him up, he was choking and slick, eyes bulging like he'd swallowed sin whole and couldn't speak it out. He tried to talk, maybe even begged. Didn't get the words out. Didn't matter. They shot him on the spot. No accusation, no reading of charges. Just a bolt round to the chest that punched a neat hole through the flak and cooked off the gore beneath. The smell lingered longer than he did. They left the body where it fell, right near the trench mouth. Vulture drones picked it over by second bell, same way they clean up battlefield scraps. Quiet, methodical, cords clicking as they retracted through sockets and skin. Come dusk, there was nothing left but a scorch mark and the stench of propellant in wet mud. The commissar didn't give a speech. Didn't have to. The point wasn't what Thane did. It was that we saw what happened to him. Everyone was looking straight ahead when it happened, but we all saw it. That's the only time they want you to see. They want it inside your discipline. Burned in like wax seals, so when your legs tremble or your El-Ho ration runs out or your hands start to twitch before the next push, you remember someone already asked the question for you. And the answer was ash. You can't talk about it afterward. There's no report filed for suicide attempts, no adjustment to the prayer logs, no offering made. Discipline is faith. Hesitation is heresy. Whatever made Thane drop his rifle and walk into pitch, they've coded it as a virus. One we all witnessed and must now build antibodies against. I tried not to think about what was in his head. Maybe the silence. Maybe just the weight of it all, the routines that don't end, the bodies that don't get named, the orders that sound more like echoes every time they're given. Or maybe he just wanted to choose how it ended. But there's no choosing here. Not really. Even death is regulated, timed, measured. If you die in combat, you serve as fodder and reminder. If you die by choice, they make an example out of you. Either way, your corpse ends up teaching someone else what not to do. That night, the chaplain passed through with incense made from tallow and rune paper. Didn't say a word about Thane, just burned the prayers slower than usual, letting the smoke curl through the trench like it could scour weakness from the lungs. We all stood a little straighter, not out of respect, reflex, conditioning, fear. I still think about Thane. Not often. Just when the vox cuts out for a moment and the only sound is your own breath, and that pit goes quiet behind camp. You wonder briefly if it's still there, if it's waiting, if it knows your name. Then someone shouts an order and the thought breaks apart like bone under boot. He's dust now, or numbers. Maybe reclassified as non-viable through self-inflicted failure. Doesn't matter. His lesson stuck. We all got the message. The trench is the only place left where the Emperor's light shines. Step outside it, and you vanish. Since the shot, I've started noticing things I shouldn't be able to. At first, I thought it was auditory bleed from the Vox units. Those always go foul eventually. But it wasn't sound exactly. It was rhythm, a pattern beneath the noise. The pulse of laser guns cycling, the impact spacing of mortars, the staggered bark of relay commands. They lined up weirdly, matched tempo. As if everything around me, everything alive or burning or screaming, was following one metronome I hadn't heard before. I tried to ignore it, but it only got sharper. I caught myself mouthing words with the Vox sermons before they played. Knew what prayer would follow a jammed rifle before command shouted it. Not because I remembered, because it felt inevitable. My blood hums now before the shelling starts. Always 15 counts ahead. And when the barrage ends, there's always a breath. 2 seconds, maybe 3. And I know the screams will come, and which direction they'll come from. It's all locked in now, like my senses have bent to the rhythm. During cleanup, I saw a medic dose a man twitching from shock. His jaw shattered, pieces of it stuck to his flat collar, and I remember thinking the sound of that syringe plunging down fit right into the beat. He made a wet noise. Even that belonged to the rhythm. I think I stopped sleeping completely, but I can't be sure. There's no dream space left. I kneel when I'm told, clean my rifle when the order chimes, and recite the 15-line maintenance litany between heat dispersals, throat dry, voice even. Once, my hand hesitated over the stock, just for an instant. It left my routine out of sync, and I felt it. A wrong beat, like a cracked cog knocking against the teeth of a gear. I couldn't fix it. It stayed with me through the next 2 rotations. Something behind my left eye started to itch, like pressure from the inside. only stopped when I realigned every motion for that day, double-checked every click, every chant, every bolt. Then it receded. The sergeant gave me a commendation token, pressed the Aquila badge into my palm with a nod like he expected gratitude. I just nodded back. My fingers kept twitching until I tucked the token into the sleeve lining next to my ration key. Didn't want it loose. Couldn't hear the rhythm clearly with it jingling around. I haven't touched it since. Even the sergeant's voice is different now. Flat and clipped, yes, but also part of the rhythm, like his mouth's just a vox horn wired into something deeper than script. I know what he'll say before he does. Which order to shout, which curse to spray at the new conscripts when they hesitate at the parapet. He follows the pattern too. Everyone does, whether they see it or not. Some nights, when the mist is thicker and the scent of plasma keeps low to the mud, I feel the war breathing. Not metaphor, not poetry. It breathes. The whole line shudders on the same pulse. My boots sink the same depth every patrol step. My lungs burn in 3-beat intervals, and if I hold too long, they spasm like they're sinking to some other breath nearby. Not mine. Not anyone's I can see. The hard part now is memory. Not the distant stuff. I gave that up weeks ago. But recent things. I can't always separate one day's tasks from the next. It's like the war's repeating, exact and perfect. Yesterday we cleaned weapons, so we must be doing it again. The sludge pit smells the same. The tech priest passed the same way, servo limbs clicking in ritual pace. I think we're reliving a successful pattern. Maybe that's the point. Cut away all deviation until only the ideal reflex remains. Maybe that's what they meant by standardization. The chaplain's sermon loop skipped once yesterday. Just once. A line dropped mid-binary. He didn't notice, just kept walking through the ranks like nothing happened, but I stumbled. My step went out of sync. My rifle slipped in my hands. Not a full drop. I caught it before it struck, but for an instant, everything in my head flashed blank, like being underwater, like I didn't exist between ticks. No air, no noise. Then it passed. The pattern resumed. I haven't reported the incident. Who would listen? I'm still hitting every chant mark, every kill count quota, and my hands don't shake anymore. That's what matters. Alignment, discipline, rhythm. I don't think in questions anymore. I hear the beat. I follow the beat. It knows where to lead. They found the commissar's corpse 2 days after the push, melted into a ridge of collapsed ferrocrete near where the shelling had opened a row of sinkholes. Report said sniper, ork, maybe a looted rifle team, maybe a flyer that dipped too low. No one investigated beyond what was needed to file the incident. No autopsy, no tribunal. Just a line item in the morning brief and a new unit appointed to command Interface 1. He'd been hit clean through the upper thorax. Burn pattern suggested high-grade loss. Not standard guard issue, but enough wreckage around here carries everything from plasma scars to Xenos shrapnel. Any story could fit if you wanted to. The sergeant didn't flinch. Read the death notice like it was a change of weather. I watched him fold the data slate, tuck it into a pouch sealed with oath wax, and move on to updating the fire rotation schedule. The squad didn't look at me. Didn't have to. They all knew. What mattered is that nobody said it. In the Imperium, truth is only what survives documentation. All else is error to be purged. So I don't carry guilt. Not officially. I carry ammo, heat dispersals, and my assigned segment of firing line. Whatever weighs behind my teeth isn't relevant to the mission. Mission status remains green. No one's asked why I wasn't red-marked, why there wasn't a post-mortem inquiry, but I can tell. They're watching in silence, the same way we all watched when Thane's heart stopped in the mud and no one moved to help. They've made their peace with the fact that the system needs bodies more than it needs precision. Faith is modular. So are we. The Medikey refilled my stim supply this morning. My rebreather was replaced with a newer sealant mesh. A purity seal was affixed to the housing of my last rifle. Fresh ink handwritten by a junior tech scribe. I've been recategorized as reliable. There's a new designation burned into the inner side of my vambrace. Pattern R Ascend. I asked the quartermaster what that meant. He didn't answer, just scanned the code strip and handed me back my gear like I'd asked about rain. Later, I saw a data servitor updating rotations. My name's still on the list, but it's been shifted up, 4 places higher. One above the heavy flamer who lost both legs and still crawled through a wyvern's wreckage to trigger a det cord by hand. There will be another charge soon. The pushing front is 30 kilometers out, and High Command declared that position viable for breach. That means we get the call. No one says it directly. The orders come coded, folded into prayer mutations and logistics updates, but you can feel it. More dirt being moved in supply trenches, more neurostim being prep sorted by weight bracket. The way the Vox pings more often now, and the sergeant's eye doesn't blink like it used to. They'll send us forward without a briefing. Just recite the tactical psalm and march under mortar cover until our boots hit something that screams when it bleeds. I'll go. They know I will. I didn't get pardoned. I didn't get forgiven. I got processed, reabsorbed. My error fit the need. I don't think of the shot anymore. Not in flashes or guilt spasms, just a vector, a coordinate, an angle poorly calculated that now lives as footnote revision. Men die every day from friendly fire. Half the time you never hear it. You just find the hole, the stench, the field report with the wrong timestamp. Someone checks the Vox logs, compares them against munition expenditure, and moves on. If the corpse interferes with protocol, they burn it and list it under extremis. Inconclusive. I am not inconclusive. I'm still firing on count. I'm still reciting tags right through to the end beat. That's all anyone needs to know. I sleep closer to the trench mouth now. No one told me to. It just happened. The rotation drifted, and I found myself tucked between the comms relay stack and the ammo crate marked with sacred oil rings. The night crew is thinner, quieter, easier to disappear in. I catch myself mouthing the comms codes before they spool out of the emitter bell. That used to scare me. Now it doesn't. I know things before I'm told because the pattern allows it. There is no sin in synchronization. There are orders beyond orders, truths above those written in ink. The system besets us with shapes. Some of us break against them. Some of us become edges into which others break. The man I killed is gone. Recycled, noted, logged, amended. The commissar, too. Both names assigned impact values, both judged in silence by the war's unfailing need. I am still here. That is the only virtue left. The chaplain passed through our line today, walking over the trench rail like it was a dais. Rain hit his armor in fat drops that hissed when they struck the incense vats on his back. He didn't speak at first, just looked at each of us in turn like he expected to find corruption by eye alone. When he stared at me, I didn't blink. I didn't know if that was fear or discipline anymore. He stopped beside me longer than the others. Said my name, first and second rank designation, voice rough like cog grit. I nodded, not eager, not scared, just acknowledgement. He anointed my rifle with oils thick as soup, smearing them across the receiver until the litany runes started to smoke. Said the oil was sacred, part machine fat, part saint blood, part recycled marrow from martyred Medicae. That last part might have been for effect, might not. Then he marked my helmet, a ring drawn in ash around the Aquila seal. Said it meant endurance. Said it meant the Emperor had acknowledged my failure and required more. I didn't answer, just let the smell of scorched oil sit in my lungs while he moved on to the next man. The others glanced at me when they thought I wasn't looking. Not surprise, not judgment, just a sort of calculation, like trying to guess if I'd become something better or worse than before. One of the new recruits whispered, "Blessed." Sergeant heard and didn't correct it. After, I cleaned my rifle by rote. The fresh sealant made the mechanism tacky, so the chamber stuck halfway through the first clear. I muttered the correction prayer 3 times and forced it open anyway. My hands moved without hurry. They didn't fumble. There's a stillness in me now, like cold iron under skin. I still bleed, but only in rhythm. The chaplain said sacrifice without resistance is the truest kind, and I think I understand what he meant. Obedience isn't just action, it's the relief of not acting alone. During prayer cycle, I didn't mouth the words. I spoke them, clearly, on count with the vox. I heard the cadence match the last racks shunting above line. Everything in rhythm. The flame cycle of the field incinerator. The steps of the vox team returning gyro grid reports. Even the drip line of water sliding down the trench wall beside my bunk berth. All aligned, one beat running through metal, flesh, and signal. Later, when the 3rd bell sounded for corpse sweep, I helped load the bodies. No mask this time, just breath and sweat. One of the tech adepts noted my efficiency rate and tapped the rune plate on my armored collar. Probably updated my profile again. Efficiency is piety. Accuracy is loyalty. We say it so often, we forget it's supposed to mean something. I remember now. You do your part exactly, or someone else dies worse. The old thoughts don't come back anymore. Not often. I remember the wound, the shot, the flinch, but not like guilt. Like memory of a broken pattern. A beat missed that was quickly corrected. The system allows for variance, as long as the rhythm is re-established. That's all that happened. A brief misfire of function. The pattern accounted for it, recalibrated me. I'm still useful. More than that, I'm reforged. There's a comfort in it, not peace. That implies rest. But silence, maybe. Inside. No fever behind the eyes, no friction in the motions. When orders come, I follow. When the pattern shifts, I shift with it. I am vector, direction, function. The sermon loop repeats. Purpose without hesitation is divinity. I believe it, if only because doubt would make the beat falter. I think the others trust me, in their way. They know I won't hesitate again. They make quiet space for me in the latrine queues, during range prep, during rations. I doubt they'd word it aloud, but they see what I've become. Not clean, not forgiven, but aligned. When I move, it's with certainty. When I shoot, it's in sequence. That's enough out here. Last night, I heard a guardsman sobbing into his mess tin, slumped behind the battered hab crate where the reductor team stores broken cogitator parts. No one went to him. I didn't either. Just passed by, compiled the moment. Deviation, mild, contained, not infectious. The chaplain will hear it soon and apply rites. I don't feel disgust or pity, just absence, like a sound missed in a long song. It means nothing until pattern reacquires. This is how it's supposed to be. The faith isn't fire, it's scaffolding. You build yourself into it, and it holds your weight when your own bones give. I've given mine. The Emperor, in his silence, accepts the offering. I recited the assignment, manifest this morning while the rations warmed. Didn't need the slate. The code was already in my mind. I knew what it would be. A push begins tomorrow. They woke us with an early tone blast. Not a siren, just a triple-pitched chime used for tactical muster. It means move, not speak. Means the pattern started. I rolled out of my berth before I was conscious of it. Gloves on, rifle slung, helmet sealed. The new mesh lining fits tighter. Doesn't chafe unless I speak too loud. I don't anymore. The trench felt quieter than usual, even with the prep lines hiss-clicking and the medicis shouting for final stim checks. Like someone had dragged a blanket of routine over everything. The same motions, same pace, same blessings murmured over ammo crates before they were split and stripped for charge packs. Sergeant sketched the sign of the Aquila over the Vox grid while the chaplain walked the ranks with his censer already burning. I caught a breath of it when he passed, not incense this time, something bitter and alkaline, like lye boiled with ash. Purification blend for breach operations cleanses not the enemy, but the witness. They called us forward by sequence and designation. My number came 5th. I stepped over the trench wall without hesitation. Mud held a little firmer than usual. That meant the cold was setting in, or a front-line tank had already crushed the ground flat. Both options meant movement. Nothing in the mist but silhouettes and burnt stumps. Behind me, the Vox relay spat clipped instructions from high command. Front pressure, left flank instability, forward momentum imperative, all in binaric script stitched half symbolic for doctrinal clarity. No real language, just intent passed into motion, the kind that doesn't need agreement, only bodies. The first 3 guardsmen fell without sound. They didn't scream, they just dropped. Green bursts from the tree line, maybe shooter drones or looted gear scattered from the orc pack roted last week. Didn't matter, they weren't called back, no one checked. We passed their bodies as terrain. One still had his rifle raised, sight locked on a target he hadn't fired at. Something in me logged the scene cleanly. Position broken, pattern incomplete, no recovery estimate. Move on. By the second ridge, we were down a third. The air shimmered ahead where lass fire crossed over each other's heat paths. I braced at the first cover rock and checked my chamber by feel. Slick, but clean. Heat dispersal yellow-lined, within margin. I muttered the action number and jacked another cell pack into the receiver like reciting a wristwatch equation. The beat hadn't broken, not even when the corporal next to me caught a round through the lung and collapsed sideways, mouth bubbling like a snapped air hose. He twitched a few times, then stilled. Command marker updated our position with a green glow through the fog. Push directive. We obeyed. I don't remember the full charge. Pieces, yes. The rhythm. My boots scoring the dirt in time with the barrage. The piston pulse of autocannon fire behind us clicking like a machine heart sinking with our advance. I remember mouthing the kill prayer 3 stanzas ahead because I'd memorized the recoil spacing and the likely count of enemy silhouettes per elevation bracket. I remember my rifle bucking like it belonged more to the ground than my hands. My shoulder didn't ache this time. I don't think it can. One of the orcs managed to get close. Close enough that I could see where his armor had been wired over the corpse of a sentinel crewman. Arm still hanging from a strap on his back, weapon fused into a melee hook. He charged wide, roaring some knot of words that didn't make sense, not because it wasn't Gothic, but because it tried to mean something. I shot him mid-cry. The bolt hit just below his rib, and he folded like a collapsing bulkhead. My second shot wasn't ordered. It was habit reinforced by rhythm. 3 total. Pattern complete. I stepped over him like a drain grate. We took the ridge, less bodies than we'd expected, less resistance altogether. The field was less battle than sweep, confirm and secure, determine rotation viability. I was already assigning kill zones when the sergeant called my name. First time in weeks, not my designation, my name. I turned. He didn't say anything else. Just nodded once, handed me a data slab with a mission tab I'd never seen before. Gold rim, purity seal still curling from heat sealing, no title, just numeric loadout and a unit coordinate elsewhere. I didn't question, just accepted. My hands didn't shake. There was no feeling of weight, just movement, like the tide had rolled forward and left me already marked in its draw. By night cycle, I was reassigned. New bunk beside the Vox array, higher field of fire, better signal clarity. I ate alone. Not because of distrust, because I was now a fixed point, not a man, not a soldier, just certainty made flesh. That's what the chaplain meant when he said the Emperor forgave through duty. It wasn't kindness. It was function. It was the system taking back what belonged to it. Now I serve at the edge of the line, where the next push will begin. Nothing waits here but the signal, the count, the command. I have no questions. I have no rank that matters, only position. According to the rotation charter, I've been designated persistent asset. Frontline repeat viable. No date of withdrawal. No override clause. I am to be deployed until unusable. That feels right. I maintain the rifle. I sleep when the beat allows. I speak only when prompted, and even then it is only to complete the chain. The man who snapped doesn't exist anymore. The system couldn't afford a break. It reforged him into a lock. I fire on rhythm. I die when needed. I am what keeps the pattern from undoing. And the Emperor preserves the useful, for as long as they remain so.